The story starts in a magical world where 9 races live side by side, including the beast folk, dwarves, oni folk, demonkin, elves, dark elves, dragonutes, centaurs, and lastly humans, one of whom is a rookie adventurer named Light, driven by the hope of lifting his family out of hardship. Our hero says goodbye to his village and embarks on a quest in pursuit of power and prosperity. When he finally reaches the grand city, he's hit with the harsh reality of discrimination as people sneer at him just for being human. Still determined, he walks into the guild to register as an adventurer, and is assigned an F rank since it's his first day. The receptionist asks if he has a special skill, and Light's face lights up as he proudly says yes. It's something called unlimited gacha. Curious, the girl asks him to explain it since she's never heard of such a thing before, but Light insists it'll be easier to show her in action. He pulls out his gacha device and presses it, creating a card right before her eyes. Beaming with pride, Light explains that whatever's on the card can be summoned, but his excitement dies fast when he realizes the first card's just a damn bent fork. Embarrassed, he laughs it off, saying it's just a failure, and tries again. But instead of something useful, out pops even more worthless crap, like a rotten apple and a piece of moldy bread. He insists it doesn't usually suck this bad, but she's already over it and just hands him his F-rank card without another word. Still fired up, Light rushes to take his first quest. The receptionist points him toward the bulletin board, but the problem is that he can't read. In this world, that's not unusual since most humans barely know their letters. Thankfully, she helps him out and picks a few beginner jobs for him. They're all low paying, but Light doesn't care, because he's ready to work his ass off, and by the end of the day, he's completely drained. He's done several jobs back to back, and all that effort barely got him enough for a single night at an inn. Still, he tries to stay positive, saying that if his gacha can spit out something edible, he'll manage just fine. Then out of nowhere, a group of beastfolk thugs bump into him and start yelling like it's his fault for dirtying their clothes. Before he can explain, they snatch every coin he has, claiming it'll cover the laundry bill. Light pleads for them to give it back because without it, he won't even have a bed for the night, but they don't give a shit. One of them kicks him to the ground, telling him to go sleep in a pigsty, and they walk off laughing. The people around don't even lift a finger to help. Instead, they sneer and call him nothing more than worthless human garbage. Right then, a young woman lifts him up, yet Light notices she's an elf, and he's taken aback. He frantically apologizes for making contact with her, but the woman reassures Light that she will not harm him. Light cannot grasp why an elf would show kindness to a human like him, and the woman even embraces him. Spectators are appalled to witness an elf merely touch a human, and Light is completely stunned. This elf girl soiled her knees just to hold him, so he questions if he's dreaming. The woman assures him that he's not, and the rest of her companions introduce themselves. They state that they are members of the Concord of Tribes. It's the title of their group that represents all 9 races created by the divinity. The beastfolk names himself Garu, and the elf is Sasha. There is also Diablo the Demonkin, Oboro the Oni folk, and Drago the Dragonute. Then comes Nano the Dwarf, Sion the Dark Elf, and Santoru the Centaur. That makes 8 members, so the party reveals that all they need now is a human to complete the set. Light is left speechless, so they clarify that their aim as a group is an honorable one. They want to wipe out racism in the world and build a future where every race stands on equal ground, and they want him to be part of it. But Light cannot believe what he's hearing, so the group's leader steps forward and promises that they mean every word, and just like that, Light agrees to join them, heart full and eyes shining. Sometime later, Light finds himself under attack by enormous serpents, and he has to be saved by Drago. Another creature almost creeps up on him, but Sasha is there to kill it. She cautions Light to be more cautious and reminds him that they're in the largest and harshest dungeon in the world, called the Abyss. If anything strikes him here, he will bite the dust immediately. Light apologizes, so Sasha explains that she's simply worried about him, and she examines him to ensure he isn't hurt. They've been traveling together for a while now, and the rest of the group starts teasing Sasha, calling her out for always babying him. They joke that she just can't help herself, that the second she's near Light, her face turns red and all her tough talk melts away. Sasha tries to say that she only does not want their group's reputation damaged by losing a member, but the others are not convinced. Light is feeling quite useless at this point, but Drago tells him not to be concerned. He says that he enjoys the tea that Light prepares for them, so he's already contributing enough. Light feels relieved hearing this, and the group continues their journey through the abyss. They reach an area with only a single way out, and Drago decides that this is the ideal place. Light thinks that it must be time for a rest, so he cheerfully tells everyone that he will prepare his well-known tea for them to enjoy. He says that it will just take a moment, but Drago immediately cuts him off and announces that Light is expelled from the party. Light cannot speak, so Drago repeats himself. Light remains completely confused, so Goru simply tells him that he's being thrown out of the group. Everyone's attitude has completely shifted as they all become harsh, and Goru says that he's worthless to them now. Even Sasha calls him a foolish child and says that he always irritated her. They even wonder aloud if his incompetence comes from a lack of brain cells or if it's simply a human trait. They all drop their act and reveal that they despise human trash like him. Light desperately hopes that it's a joke, but they tell him that they didn't come all the way into the abyss for some prank. Light points out that they were all so kind to him before, but they admit that it was all fake, as they needed him in their group. It makes no sense to him, so Drago explains that the entire setup was because of Light's ability. This only confuses Light more because his unlimited gacha has always seemed worthless. Drago says that their leaders have been monitoring Light because of his odd ability, suspecting that he might be something called a maestro. The only reason they brought him into the Concord of Tribes was to watch him closely. Light argues that his unlimited gacha is a useless ability because it only produces piles of junk, but that does not matter to them. They already know his power is worthless and his stats are even worse. That is why the leaders have decided that Light is not the maestro, which means he's nothing but dead weight now. The others wish the higher-ups had decided sooner because they hated pretending to like him all this time. Light knows nothing about these leaders or the maestro, but Drago says he's heard enough. It won't matter anyway, as Drago declares that it's time to finish the damn job. Horror crashes over Light as he realizes he's not just being thrown out of the party, because finishing the job means they're going to finish his ass off. That's when it begins, and Garu lunges forward, slicing across Light's face. His whole frame trembles as the brutal truth sinks in, and he bolts in panic. But escape isn't an option as the group tells him there's no way out. He couldn't survive even a single beast in the abyss, so they tell him to just accept his fate. Sasha makes it clear there won't be a chance to run, firing an arrow that pierces through his damn leg. Garu admits how much pleasure he gets from hunting humans, and Sion agrees, saying their freaking screams are like a sweet melody to her. Garu doesn't stop there, and he kicks the shit out of Light. Drago tells him to cut it off, but Goru is eager to keep going, so Sasha reminds him they have to stick to the script. Their excuse is going to be that a monster from the abyss killed Light, so they can't leave behind wounds that say otherwise. Garu steps up to deliver the final blow, telling Light he's been a fun target to beat on, so the end won't be quick. Light crawls desperately across the ground, questioning how it all came to this shit. His hopelessness explodes, and he shouts that he doesn't want to die, accidentally activating a teleport trap. Drago yells at Garu not to let the damn rat slip away, but it's already too late. A few seconds later, Light finds himself elsewhere in the dungeon, but the change in scenery brings no comfort. His injuries are severe, and he knows the moment one of the creatures here finds him, he's done. All he can think about is his family, wondering what led to this. The others had treated him kindly, and he thought they were becoming like comrades after everything they'd shared. But reality is cruel, and the friendship was fake, and they took joy in breaking him. They were thrilled at the thought of watching him die, and they planned to do it with smirks on their faces. Light's heartbreak quickly burns into fury, and he now despises every single one of them, so he promises to wipe them out. That fury lights a fire in him, and his thirst for vengeance refuses to let him fall here. He swears they'll pay, and he'll tear them all to pieces, and take his sweet revenge. But things only get worse as a creature shows up, and Light's eyes go wide as he sees it's level 1000. That shouldn't exist because beasts like that belong in myths. That's when Light realizes the terrifying truth that he's been warped to the very bottom of the abyss itself. There's no freaking chance of escape as the monster closes in, but Light refuses to perish before claiming his vengeance. All Light has to even attempt to resist is his unlimited gacha, so he activates it. Light triggers his unlimited gacha again and again, silently begging for a miracle. He will not surrender because he must destroy those who betrayed him at any price and return to the family he treasures. And by fortune, Light's persistence succeeds, and his gacha blazes with dazzling brilliance like never before. The monster strikes, but it's already too late as Light's gacha produces a new card. A voice proclaims that nothing shall harm its master, and a maiden manifests, completely obliterating the level 1000 creature. This mighty girl clears the wreckage she caused, and astonishingly, kneels before Light. She heals him and quickly apologizes for doing so without asking his permission first, saying it would be shameful if his handsome features and fair pearl skin were marred by such dreadful injuries. abilities. Light is amazed to hear her speak this way about him, and even more shocked to realize that she has healed every wound. The girl asks him to grace her with his name in his fine voice. So Light tells her who he is. The girl calls him Master Light and announces that she will devote her existence to serving him. It is the maid's oath of honor, and she vows her total loyalty to him without hesitation. Naturally, Light wants to know who this mysterious girl is, so she introduces herself as May, the ever-seeking maid, and her level is 9999. What stuns Light most isn't her power, it's that she's a super ultra rare card pulled from his supposedly useless unlimited gacha. But May goes on and on about her undying devotion, even saying she would follow him beyond death itself. Still overwhelmed, Light tries to explain that his unlimited gacha isn't anything special. There's just no way someone like her could have been summoned from such a useless skill. May kindly asks permission to inspect his gacha using her appraisal ability, saying she'll only do so with his consent because it's the proper way for a servant to act, and Light agrees. As soon as she examines it, May is amazed. She reveals that Light's abilities are buried beneath a powerful concealment barrier known as Conceal, and no one below her level would ever be able to uncover it. Then she tells him that his unlimited gacha is anything but trash. It allows for infinite draws, and the quality and rarity of what it produces depend on the mana levels in the surrounding area. She lists the rarity tiers from highest to lowest: extra, super ultra rare, triple as rare, double S rare, rare, normal, and at the bottom, error. Light doesn't fully understand the part about mana, so May breaks it down for him. She explains that mana is an invisible force that flows through everything in the world, but its concentration is weakest near the surface, which means the odds of pulling a super ultra rare like May up there are practically non-existent. But things are different down in this place. Right now, they're in the very depths of the dungeon, and the mana here is thick in the air. That means Light's chances of drawing rare cards improve dramatically at this depth. May has no idea what led him here, but she praises his courage for venturing this far below just to unlock the full strength of his unlimited gacha. Light, however, refuses to pretend he's some kind of hero. He admits that he would have never made it this far on his own. He explains how his old allies turned on him, how they slashed him, beat the shit out of him, pierced him with an arrow, and left him for dead. As he speaks, the memories overwhelm him. Tears come, but so does the rage, and he swears that he won't rest until every single one of them pays the price. Without warning, May gently wraps her arms around him and apologizes for the torment he's endured. She assures him that now that he has her at his side, serving justice to those traitors will be effortless. She then begs Light to give her the order to hunt down the treacherous ones and bring back their heads on stakes as tribute. Light takes a step back, not giving an answer. So May assumes it's because he has too much compassion in his heart, and tells him his enemies are beneath mercy. But Light replies that's not the issue. He trusted them and got tricked. He was beaten nearly to death and thrown to the bottom of this cursed place, and the real problem wasn't them, it was his own weakness. And that's why he's decided that he must grow stronger. He admits it might be impossible for a weak human like him, but he desires vengeance by his own hand. He then wonders aloud if May thinks he's being foolish, but she says she would never think that of him. Instead, she declares that his desire is hers, and if his goal is personal vengeance, then it's her duty to see it through. She says that she believes in what he can become, more than anything in the world, so Light thanks her for her unwavering loyalty. With their resolve now aligned, Light rolls his unlimited gacha once more in the depths of the abyss, vowing to master his ability to build a kingdom powerful enough to clear the way toward his vengeance. After 3 years, we see that Light has built a massive empire right in the depths of the abyss. Surrounded by his loyal maids, he stands at the center, his calm voice filled with praise as he tells them they've done excellent work once again. In perfect harmony, they bow and express their gratitude toward their adored Master Light. Every one of them seems completely captivated by him, whispering that being near him feels like the luckiest thing that's ever happened in their lives. One overly devoted maid even gushes that she'd give anything just to sniff his feet. Their obsession quickly grows absurd, and May, visibly irritated, requests permission to put them back in line. But Light just waves it off with an easy smile, saying there's no need because they're just showing loyalty in their own way, and allows it to pass. Then we see the true scale of Light's empire. Vast cities filled with bustling shops and countless citizens leading peaceful lives. Wherever he walks, people greet him warmly, calling out to Master Light and offering him their finest dishes. Even those who are running low on supplies approach him without fear, knowing their leader is kind and fair. Light reassures them that he'll alert the administration to fix any shortages, and May immediately takes charge, insisting on resolving every issue at once to ensure no one doubts the Empire's stability. Light observes that the population has grown enormously over the past 3 years, and he realizes he might need to overhaul the entire governing structure soon. His next concern is the status of his elite warriors, each one a summon from level 999 super ultra rare card. May reports that they're all currently out on mission. Ayuki, for instance, is mapping the outer perimeter of the Abyss, a region crawling with dangerous creatures. But Light isn't worried because he's confident that a genius beast tamer like her can handle anything out there. Next is Eli, who's been hard at work developing new forms of magic aligned with Light's grand vision. He knows he's given her a lot to handle and hopes she isn't pushing herself too hard to meet his expectations. Then there's Nizuna, who's patrolling the castle as usual. She specializes in close quarters combat, making her the ideal bodyguard. May admits Nizuna isn't exactly the sharpest mind in the group, but she's easily the most entertaining to be around. Back inside the castle, May grows annoyed to find someone waiting outside Light's chamber, and it's Jack, the level 7777 warrior. May scolds him for being too casual and reminds him to show proper respect to Master Light. But Light dismisses her concern and tells her it's fine, and he doesn't mind because he always thinks of him as his big brother. The two men step outside for some serious training, and Light warns that today, there'll be no holding back. He declares the gloves are off, and immediately opens with a lightning-fast punch straight into Jack's stomach. Jack stumbles back, clearly impressed, but laughs it off because after all, there's a reason they call him the Iron-Blooded Barricade. Light's hit would have taken out nearly anyone else, but Jack is built like a fortress. As their sparring session heats up, we cut to Nizuna making her rounds through the castle. She proudly informs the other maids that she's carrying out a direct assignment from Master Light, a critical patrol mission. The maids shower her with praise, saying they feel safer knowing someone like her is watching over them. Nizuna tries to remain modest, saying she's just doing her duty, even if her posture says otherwise. Not sure where to head next, Nizuna listens as the maids nervously mention a certain restricted zone they'd like her to check out. Turns out that area is none other than Light's bedroom, leaving May puzzled about why Nizuna's knocking there. Nizuna says she's simply planning to inspect the room, but May calmly tells her that Light's quarters are already tightly secured. But Nizuna hits back by pointing out that Light isn't even home right now, and more suspiciously, wonders what May is doing inside. May quickly claims she's just keeping busy, as all diligent maids should be, but Nizuna shrugs and lets herself in. Once inside, Nizuna begins to observe the surroundings. Something seems off. The bed is clearly ruffled, as if someone had been flopping around on it. Even stranger, there are impressions on the pillows like someone was lying down, kicking their legs, and sniffing. May doesn't flinch and calmly says this is part of her specialized bed-making technique. She claims it's a top-secret method, not to be shared. Nizuna, completely convinced, gasps in admiration. She praises May's incredible skills and says she truly deserves her position as Light's first ever summon. But Nizuna didn't come empty-handed. She also delivers a message from the other maids. They're fed up with May monopolizing access to Light's room. The note says the maids demand fair cleaning rights, and that a formal petition has already been launched to remove May as head maid. They accuse her of tyranny and sign off the letter with a sharp "get wrecked." Nizuna offers to help however she can, but May politely declines, saying it's her job to handle this uprising herself. She thanks Nizuna for relaying the message and even slips her a tip, which leaves Nizuna beaming with joy. Nizuna immediately rushes off to splurge her reward money at a local vendor that just restocked with a fresh batch of irresistible treats. She refuses to waste her coin on anything average because what her stomach truly craves are those glorious milk and pancake sandwiches. With no hesitation, she shoves the snacks into her mouth, completely lost in flavor heaven. And that's when she stumbles upon Aoyuki inside the castle. Confused, Nizuna asks why Aoyuki is back so soon because she was supposed to be exploring the forest perimeter of the Abyss. As always, Aoyuki replies in a series of cat-like meows. Unfortunately for her, Nizuna doesn't speak meow the way Light does. ever confident in her own brilliance. Nazuna attempts to interpret her cryptic words, but her guesses miss the mark entirely. First, she asks if Ayuki needs help chopping down trees to clear the scouting path, but the answer is clearly no. Then she wonders if Ayuki might have run into some kind of monster that was too tough to handle, but that's not it either. Nazuna eventually acknowledges that while Ayuki was summoned before her, she still looks older and stronger, so with full confidence, she tells Ayuki that if she's ever in trouble, she should feel free to rely on her. Tired of the guessing game, Ayuki finally drops the act and speaks normally, explaining that she completed the mission without any issues. She didn't encounter a single threat and came back simply to deliver her portion of the completed map. Back inside the castle, Nazuna finishes up her patrol with pride, though she's a little down that she hasn't seen Master Light all day. After making sure she's alone, she sneaks over and climbs onto Light's grand throne. She reflects on how effortlessly cool he looks whenever he sits there, and quietly wishes he were here now. But her fantasy is abruptly shattered when she accidentally snaps off a small piece of the throne's angel wing. In full panic mode, she slaps the broken part back on, hoping it stays, then bolts from the room in a full sprint. Meanwhile, out near the training grounds, Light and Jack are still exchanging blows, but eventually agree to wrap up for the day. While catching their breath, Jack comments that Light has practically mastered the art of turning his entire body into a weapon. But Light, as humble as ever, credits Jack for being a great teacher. The intense sessions have transformed Light into a powerhouse, and Jack admits that there are only a handful of beings in the Abyss that could even stand a chance against him now. The Abyss is home to the most fearsome creatures on the planet, meaning that if so few can rival Light down here, even fewer can challenge him on the surface. But Jack isn't saying this to brag. He's reminding Light of an important truth: stronger foes still exist out there. Light takes the warning to heart, and he knows the surface world is full of unknown dangers, and he vows never to grow complacent. He'll survive no matter what it takes because his mission for vengeance still isn't over. In another room, May gathers the maids for a meeting, but they all pretend they have no idea why she summoned them. May calmly recites every word of the message they sent her, including the final, "Get wrecked" line. Instantly, the group starts apologizing all at once. None of them know what to say, so they scramble for excuses. One of them claims they were just trying to help because May is always so overworked, and the others chime in, saying their intentions were good. But none of that explains the last part of their note, and worst of all, they had the nerve to send Nazuna to deliver it instead of facing May directly. Their so-called unity crumbles in seconds as they start blaming each other. But May shuts it down, and she firmly rejects their request to be allowed inside Light's room. Instead, she assigns them a different task: cleaning the corridor that leads to the throne chamber. And just to drive the point home, she orders them to scrub it all manually, without magic or shortcut. The hallway is ridiculously long, and the maids groan that it'll take forever. But May doesn't budge, and she reminds them that she'll be heading to the surface soon on a special mission for Master Light, so she expects them to keep everything spotless while she's away. Meanwhile, in the market, Nazuna stares dreamily at a sleek-looking weapon on display, muttering that she wishes she could buy something that cool. Ellie suddenly shows up behind her, surprised to find her hanging around the shop. Thinking Nazuna's probably there for sweets again, she's surprised to hear that Nazuna's just admiring a pair of battle gloves. Nazuna thought Ellie would be off doing fieldwork or overseeing repairs like usual, but Ellie casually says she's on break today and everything's running so smoothly. She actually has free time for once. Ellie suspects Nazuna's even more scatterbrained than usual, but Nazuna tries to prove her sharpness by proudly reciting multiplication facts, only to mess up right away. Ellie bursts out laughing, mocking her, and the two start bickering. Ellie smugly points out that Light trusts her with high-level tasks, crucial to his master plan for revenge, unlike Nazuna and her adorably tiny brain. Nazuna claps back, saying her patrols are important too, but Ellie waves it off as nothing special. Then Ellie reveals she just had tea with Light to discuss strategic matters. She taunts Nazuna, saying next time, she might even reserve a private room for their meeting. Nazuna instantly gets jealous, not over the conversation, but the tea. She desperately wants to have tea with Light too. Ellie can't believe that's what upset her, but Nazuna just blinks confused, because she doesn't see what else there is to be jealous about. So Ellie says there's something even more jealousy-worthy, something that should really light a fire under her. But Nazuna misreads the moment entirely, and she assumes Ellie's talking about magic, and immediately immediately offers her support, thinking Ellie might be worried about not being able to fight without spells one day, and she promises to protect her if that ever happens. Left speechless, Ellie just sighs and says sure, she'll take her up on it. Nazuna skips off, happy as ever, ready to resume her patrol. Ellie watches her go, thinking to herself that there really is no one else quite like Nazuna. Elsewhere in the castle, the four maids gripe about how they ended up in trouble despite having what they believe was a perfectly valid complaint about their supervisor. The problem is that she is the supervisor, and May's practically untouchable, powerless to act against her. They all sulk, dreaming about how nice it would have been to be the ones cleaning Master Light's room. The conversation quickly derails as one of them says she'd bury her entire face in his bedsheets just to catch his scent. As usual, the girl who always takes things too far goes way over the edge, saying she wants to lick every utensil he's ever used. The others immediately call her a freaking freak, but after a moment of hesitation, they all sheepishly admit they'd probably do the same. Their thoughts wander to May's seniority because after all, she was the very first one Light summoned. It wasn't until 3 months later that Aoyuki appeared, and they can't stop imagining what might have happened between Light and May during that time, and their imaginations spiral out of control. Light is pure, innocent, and sometimes completely clueless, and the idea of a young boy and girl being alone together in a death trap of a dungeon makes them sick with envy. They feel so jealous. They wish they could channel that emotion into an actual curse to put on May. They try, but all freeze in horror when May suddenly appears behind them. They had all assumed she'd already left for her surface mission, but apparently not. May tells them she caught wind of them chanting die repeatedly and has come for an explanation. Instantly, the girls change their tone, pretending to be nothing but loyal underlings. But May isn't fooled in the slightest. Eventually, they confess, admitting their envy got the better of them. What they really resent is the fact that May got to spend so much one-on-one time with Light. May tells them she has no obligation to share what happened during those 3 months, but since she's feeling charitable, she'll humor them. She reveals that during that time, Light didn't spend a single moment doing anything remotely romantic or questionable. He buried himself in study, devouring every book he could find and practicing martial arts non-stop, because he was entirely consumed by his goal of growing stronger. As for all the depraved fantasies the maids cooked up, none of them came even remotely true. May admits that lately, she had been feeling like she might have been too strict, that maybe her leadership had been a little unreasonable. She was even considering lightening their workload. But now, after hearing what they were plotting, she realizes she was way too lenient. Not only will they be scrubbing the hallways by hand, but she's adding the throne room to their task list as well. The girls groan in despair, realizing that will take an eternity, but May coldly remarks that, given how much time they spent badmouthing her, they clearly have plenty to spare. Her tone shifts from casual to commanding, as she tells them to acknowledge the order immediately. The maids have no choice but to salute and get to work, grumbling as they go. But just as they begin cleaning, disaster strikes. The broken angel wing on Light's throne, previously reattached in a panic by Nazuna, snaps off and hits the floor. Inside her room, Nazuna stretches out with a sigh of relief, proud to have completed another day of keeping the peace. Still, there's a lingering disappointment in her chest because she didn't get to see Light at all. More than anything, she wishes he'd finally give her the order she's been waiting for. She wants to be sent to the surface, so she can destroy everyone who dared to betray him. She eventually calmed down, hoping she could see him the next morning, and fell asleep with that wish in her heart. The following day, Light steps outside the castle and finds the usual scene, Ellie and Nazuna locked in another argument. Nazuna lights up the moment she spots him, thrilled that her wish came true and she gets to see Master Light again. As always, Light can't help but treat Aoyuki like a cat, and the other girls quickly become jealous of the attention. But the peaceful moment is shattered when a familiar beast shows up, one that looks exactly like the hellhound Light first faced when he fell into the abyss. Even now, Light feels his body tense up at the sight of it, haunted by the fear from that day. But things were different now because he had powerful warriors by his side, and they were ready to fight without hesitation. Nazuna drops her usual air-headed tone, filled with rage that a lowly training mutt would dare show its face in front of Light. Ellie's furious too, ready to punish the creature for its arrogance. Aoyuki is equally disgusted. Just the hound's presence is disturbing Light's peace, and she promises to wipe out their entire breed if needed. They make it clear that they're about to unleash the overwhelming force of their level 999 strength. But before they can make a move, Light gently steps in and tells them it's alright. His voice alone is enough to make them stop instantly. He reassures them that he's fine now. Surprisingly, Light even apologizes to the beast for scaring it. In the back of his mind, he knows that if he ever gave the word, his girls would wipe the hellhounds from existence. Then Light gets to the reason he gathered them. He informs them that May has returned, and her mission was a success, which means it's time. Their target has fallen right into the trap, and now they move to phase 2. The girls are a bit annoyed that May got to take the lead, but they're just as fired up knowing they're finally moving forward. Light turns and leads them forward, declaring that the first dish of his long-awaited revenge is finally ready to be served. Far away, in the City of Wolves, one of Light's targets, Garu, strolls through the streets. The people cheer for him like he's a hero, blissfully unaware that vengeance is already on its way. The villagers are obsessed with Garu, to the point where one of them even jokes that he should marry his sister. They heap praise on him non-stop, and Garu laps it up without shame. He soaks in the attention, strutting around like a celebrity and telling everyone to clear the way for a legend. Off to the side, a human digs through a pile of trash, and Garu can't stand the sight, so he calls the boy gutter scum, slams him into the ground, and spits right in his face. Like most beast folk, Garu holds nothing but contempt for humans, and he tells the boy to vanish and makes it clear he better never show up in front of him again. Later at a local tavern, he confidently claims the best seat and instructs his entourage to order anything they like, boasting that he's been earning handsomely. His companions heap praise on him, calling him a symbol of pride for all beast folk, even though he himself once clawed his way up from the filth of the slums. Now, he's a leader admired by many. With unfiltered arrogance, he tells them that becoming someone like him isn't something just anyone can do. He's mastered the art of influence, and since beast folk are naturally inclined to follow, all he needs to do is leverage that trait. Then life becomes royalty. According to him, the key to success lies in properly categorizing tasks, knowing which ones are worth the investment, and which consume too much effort for too little return in power or profit. One of the less intelligent beast folk brings up an old job Garu took 3 years ago involving the Concord of Tribes, asking whether it had been lucrative. Another companion scolds him for prying, but the wolf-like leader answers calmly, stating that the federation they worked for had bound them by oath, making it impossible to reveal any specific details. He recalls, however, that it was the easiest and most profitable mission he'd ever taken. Just eliminate one insignificant, worthless human boy. And now he's both wealthy and respected. Still, something about that portal nags at him. He never discovered where it led, though he highly doubts someone like Light could have possibly survived. What intrigues him more is the mysterious maestro that the Federation was so obsessed with locating. The thought alone sends a chill through him, warning that digging too deep into it might be dangerous. Before he can think further, his thoughts are interrupted by the sudden arrival of a stunning young woman revealed to be May, who politely asks if they can speak. She inquires whether he is Goru the beast folk leader, and he nods after casually sipping from his drink. May falsely claims to have served as the maid of Master Light, who she explains hails from an esteemed noble bloodline. Goru is stunned by this revelation and begins to wonder if he had kept Light alive. It would have been more profitable for him. May continues her deception, claiming that she has been searching for Light for the past 3 years, and that every clue she followed led her to this country, the very place where he was last seen traveling with a new party. Garu casually admits that he was indeed part of that group and confirms that Light had been among them. May's eyes glisten as she feigns sorrow, saying she heard rumors that Light perished inside the dungeons and was never seen again. Garu nods solemnly, agreeing that it's true that Light met a tragic end. But May gently asks if he could guide her to the site where it happened, explaining that it would bring her comfort to visit the place where Light drew his last breath. Garu responds bluntly, asking what's in it for him. To his surprise, May calmly places a small bag on the table, and inside are 3 solid bars of gold. His companions are stunned into silence, their eyes wide, but Garu keeps a straight face as his mind races. He wonders whether this is a setup, or if the girl genuinely seeks nothing more than a guide into the depths of the dungeons. But after a moment's thought, he decides to take the deal. In his mind, a fragile human woman poses no threat to someone of his strength, as she couldn't even touch a strand of his fur, let alone harm him. Garu eventually leads her into the dungeons, accompanied by his loyal followers. After several hours of trekking through damp tunnels, he turns to ask if she's holding up. May, though visibly drained, offers a faint smile and insists she can continue. Garu smirks inwardly, thinking about how fortune always seems to favor him. He plans to rob her of her gold once they arrive, and then defile her right there, over the grave of the man she mourns. Finally, they reach the cavern where Light had once been abandoned and left to die. Garu gestures ahead, claiming this is the spot where Light met his unfortunate fate. He spins a false tale about a group of monsters ambushing them, saying Light didn't have time to flee, was torn apart, and then triggered a teleportation trap and was never to be seen again. May collapses to her knees, tears streaming down her face, while Garu's thoughts turn cruel. He mocks how pitiful humans are, so fragile, so unaware of danger even as it closes in. His men subtly spread out, forming a circle and sealing off the only escape, while Garou continues his performance, pretending to lament that he tried to save Light but failed. Just as he prepares to strike, Mei's tone suddenly changes. Her voice hardens as she declares that only the most depraved creatures in existence could deceive someone as pure-hearted as Light, luring him into a filthy dungeon only to betray him. Her words echo sharply against the stone walls as she glances around, regret burning in her eyes, admitting that if she had entered Light's service even a little sooner, he would have never been hunted, shot through the leg, and beaten until he could barely breathe. Garou instantly senses danger and instinctively leaps backward, his mind racing with confusion about how on earth this woman knows such specific details. His followers glance around, clearly puzzled, unaware of the full weight of what's just been said. But Garou knows better. The only individuals who could possibly be aware of that event are either members of the concordative tribes or high-ranking figures from the nation's elite. He narrows his eyes and demands to know who she's working for, accusing her of being a spy dispatched by a rival tribe. She scoffs in response, boldly declaring that she serves no one but Light and that Garou is about to face her fury. The raw energy surging from her sends a shudder through him, which he finds deeply unsettling. He tries to reassure himself that she's nothing more than a worthless human, good only for being used and discarded. But the moment she locks eyes with him, a cold wave of dread washes over him. His instincts are screaming the truth that this is no bluff, and if he fights her, he's going to die. Just as Mei is about to strike, a calm voice echoes from the shadows, and it's Light's voice urging her to stand down, saying that he'll handle Garou personally. Garou's eyes widen, refusing to believe what he's hearing. But then, Light steps forward into view, his tone almost casual, as if greeting an old acquaintance. He tells Garou he's come to settle the score from 3 years ago. Suddenly regaining his swagger, Garou bursts into laughter, claiming he never thought he'd see Light again. He mocks him for being a pathetic level 15 human, bragging that someone like him couldn't possibly stand against a level 158 raid boss. He sneers, saying he doesn't even care how the hell Light survived. But now at last he can slay him with his own hands and drag his corpse back as evidence. Light exhales softly, asking if Garou isn't at least curious about who Mei is, or how powerful she really might be. Garou shrugs it off, admitting that he has no clue about the true strength of this so-called maid. But he's absolutely certain that weak little humans will never measure up to beast folk like them. He boasts that all his men are above level 130 and that they'll crush them with overwhelming force. Without further delay, he gives the signal to attack. 2 of his subordinates rush toward Light at full speed, weapons drawn, ready to strike him down. But in an instant, Mei intercepts them, appearing before they even blink. Their heads fall cleanly to the ground in the same spot, while their bodies collapse in silence. She coldly warns that anyone who dares to threaten Light will lose their life, but Light calmly instructs her to fall back and block all the exits because this time, he wants to have a little fun himself. Garou's men start to lose their nerve, unable to comprehend what they've just witnessed. But Garou quickly tries to get them back in line, brushing it off as nothing more than a cheap parlor trick she pulled, nothing real. Light looks at him and asks if he still honestly believes humans are weaker, if it ever crossed his mind that humanity might be the most powerful race of them all. Garou bursts into laughter, proudly flexing his level, as if that ends the conversation. But Light calmly responds, saying that a level is just a number, and it means nothing when it comes to true strength. Garou's patience snaps, and with a furious roar, he and all his cronies launch themselves at Light in full force. But to their shock, Light doesn't flinch and stands as still as a mirror's surface. Then in an instant, he erupts into motion, parrying every strike and flooring each of the beast warriors in flawless succession. One by one, they crash to the ground, dazed and breathless. Light steps toward Garou and asks him again if he still thinks humans are weak. But Garou, consumed by pride, refuses to accept defeat. Gritting his teeth, he pushes through the pain, vaults back to his feet, and shouts that no human could ever rival him. Determined, he pulls a glowing magic crystal from his pocket and slams it onto the floor, summoning his familiar, an enormous level 500 wolf monster. Light watches calmly and asks if that's truly the best Garou can do. But Garou assumes he's stunned into silence and mocks him, urging him to start begging. Light doesn't budge and tells Garou to go ahead and strike, promising not to take a single step from where he's standing. Enraged, Garou commands his beast to unleash a blast so devastating it could obliterate an entire city block. The explosion rocks the dungeon, and a cloud of dust swallows everything. But when it clears, Garou's expression freezes in disbelief. Light stands exactly where he was, untouched, not even a scratch marring his robes. Light smirks, mocking him for giving that overblown attack such a grand name when all it did was stir up a little dust. Garou is too stunned to reply, and now his men are visibly trembling, some barely able to hold themselves together. With a quiet confidence, Light announces it's his turn. He reaches into his coat like he's in the middle of a duel and pulls out a card just like in a trading card game. He plays the legendary level 9000 ultra rare card, the Primal Wolf Divinity. The divine beast materializes behind him, radiant and ethereal, leaving the beast folk dumbstruck. Light gives a simple command: eliminate Garu's familiar. But instead of firing off a dramatic explosion, the divine wolf exhales gently, and that breath alone is enough. Its divine essence freezes Garu's massive wolf solid and then shatters it into gleaming fragments, right in front of its stunned master. Garu stands frozen, mind spiraling, unable to accept that his level 500 monster was destroyed in an instant, without even a real fight. But Light simply shrugs, telling him that he could have crushed the beast himself if he'd really wanted to. Then, as the final blow to Garu's pride, Light reveals his own level maxed out at 9,999. Garu begins to stammer, his whole body trembling as he mutters that this simply can't be real because humans aren't supposed to exceed level 100. And if Light were truly the same human from 3 years ago, he should have aged by now. Light calmly explains that he wears an age ring to halt his physical growth, a reminder of who he was and the day he was betrayed by the lowest form of filth to ever walk the earth. At that moment, Garu realizes his fate is sealed. He stands no chance, none at all, against the monster that Light has become. Knowing he's as good as dead, he does what any coward would. He drops his weapons and falls to his knees, begging for mercy. He pleads that it wasn't his fault, claiming he acted under orders from the Federation. With a trembling voice, he insists that he never intended to harm anyone, that his subordinates were the ones who came up with this entire plan and dragged him into it. His underlings stare at him in disbelief because this is the same man who was bragging about his power and dominance just this morning, and now he's bowing his head, begging for forgiveness, even offering to serve as Light's pet if it would spare his life. Light, however, remains indifferent, and instead he asks what the Maestro truly is and why the government is so obsessed with finding him. Garu answers honestly that he doesn't know, only that they were told the Maestro was likely a human. Light's tone hardens as he asks why they chose to kill him once they believed he wasn't the Maestro. Garu quickly prostrates himself again, swearing that he has no idea, that they were simply following orders. Light's eyes shift toward the other beast folk, demanding to know if any of them possess real information. In a desperate bid to survive, they all start shouting that they do. But May's special eyes flare with power, exposing their lies. Without hesitation, she cuts them down where they stand, their blood splattering across the cavern floor. She coldly declares that anyone who dares to lie before Light will meet death by her hand. Light turns back to Garu and asks if he believes there's anyone strong enough to challenge him should he decide to wage war on the surface. Garu admits the truth that Light's power is beyond comprehension, enough to crush nations single-handedly. But he adds that if the nations unite and unleash the weapons they've been developing, even someone like Light might face difficulties, especially with only a maid by his side. Light smirks and tells him he wants to show him something. With a flick of his hand, he casts teleportation magic, transporting them straight to his own throne room. Garu's sanity nearly snaps the instant he arrives. His mind can't process what he's seeing, an army so vast and terrifying that the weakest among them is level 1500. While 4 maids stand at level 9,999, the rest range between 6,000 and 9,000, each radiating divine power. Garu can't speak, and a single tear slips down his cheek as the horrifying truth sinks in. Light could erase the entire planet in the blink of an eye. He isn't just powerful, he's a walking apocalypse. And Garu can only tremble as he wonders what will happen when that deity finally decides to go to war. The next morning, Light heads back to his hometown with the hope of reuniting with his family and bringing them back to his dungeon city. But when he arrived, that hope quickly turned to despair. Before him lay nothing but a wasteland of shattered ruins and decaying corpses. The village had been completely wiped out roughly 6 months earlier by unknown attackers, leaving no trace of life behind. Determined to at least give his loved ones a proper farewell, Light began sifting through the rubble, searching for any remains he could lay to rest. To his immense relief, none of the bodies matched those of his younger siblings, which gave him a faint spark of hope that they might still be alive somewhere. But his parents hadn't been so lucky. Gold, noticing the weight of the moment, asked if Light was holding up, acknowledging how difficult this must be to process, but Light assured him he would manage. Right now, their focus had to remain on the current mission, so he requested Gold and Nemamu to assist in gathering as much intelligence as possible. While it had become clear that their military strength was formidable enough to rival the world's major powers, rushing headfirst into conflict would be reckless. He wanted detailed information about the capabilities of each nation. Moreover, Light suspected that the destruction of his village was directly linked to rumors of him being a maestro, so he was determined to uncover what a maestro truly is, and why such a title would warrant so much bloodshed. And if it turned out that all this devastation was the result of a few power-hungry elites chasing influence, then he vowed to reduce the world to ashes and personally force the culprits to swallow the aftermath. Gold sympathized with Light's anger but cautioned him to control his fury in public. The aura he was emitting could easily kill an ordinary person on the spot. Light apologized for his lack of restraint and equipped an item called the Fool's Mask to suppress his energy and conceal his identity. After paying his final respects at his parents' graves and quietly apologizing for not being able to protect them, he and Gold and Nemamu took off, heading toward the city of Dagas. Along the way, Nemamu, curious and slightly unsure, asked what Light intended to do once they arrived. Before Light could answer, Gold advised her to be mindful of how she addresses their lord while they're on the surface, and Light explained that using his real name could alert those affiliated with Concord. So for the time being, he would go by the alias Dark during their mission, and Nemamu nodded in understanding. As for his plans in Dagas, Light informed her that he intended to register as an adventurer under the name Dark, and by rising through the ranks, he hoped to gradually gain access to valuable information from the upper circles within the guild. After a short while, Nemamu spots the city of Dagas on the horizon. Since flying straight in would attract unnecessary attention, Light recommends landing in the forest and making the rest of the journey on foot. Still, with Gold's dazzling suit of armor, they're bound to stand out regardless. As the trio makes their way through the woods, they stumble upon a troubling scene, a human merchant being ambushed by a group of dwarven bandits. Although they would have preferred to stay unnoticed until reaching the city, Gold's armor includes embedded sparkle effects that catch the light, and unfortunately the attention of the thieves. The dwarves then decide to try their luck robbing him as well, which ends poorly for them, as they are left tied up and humiliated in the middle of the trail. The grateful merchant and his son, overwhelmed with relief, offer Light and his companions a ride to the city as thanks for their timely rescue. During the trip, the boy can't stop talking about how incredible Gold was in battle, admitting he'd never seen anyone take down dwarves with such ease. His father guesses they must be a well-known team of adventurers, but Light clarifies that they haven't even registered yet. Surprised by the response, the man tells them that if they are serious about becoming adventurers, Dagas is the ideal place to do it. The city boasts one of the largest guilds in the region and sits at the border between the elf, dwarf, and human territories. With a solid population of humans residing there, it's considered one of the more welcoming cities for their kind. He even mentions owning a successful human-run hotel and invites them to stay there if they need lodging. Not long after, they reach the outskirts of Dagas. Light asks Colonel to drop them off at the city gates, as they prefer to walk the rest of the way on foot. For Gold and Nemamu, this is their first time setting foot in a surface city, and they quickly take note of the many storefronts selling armor and weaponry. Light explains that it's no surprise because this place is filled with adventurers, and with the nearby dwarf kingdom known for its blacksmithing prowess, it's only natural that their goods are sold here in abundance. When the group finally arrives at the guild hall, Nemamu observes that humans tend to scatter and avoid eye contact whenever someone from another race passes by. Light interprets this behavior as evidence that humans aren't exactly treated with respect in this city either, even if that discrimination isn't openly acknowledged. Light makes his way to the front desk to register, and as expected, he's required to begin at F rank. That means he'll need to complete a few entry-level quests later on to raise his status. But before handling any of that, securing a place to stay takes priority. Recalling that Colonel mentioned owning a hotel, Light decides to head there with the others. Colonel is visibly surprised to see Light again and asks how he can assist him, and Light explains that he has a rather specific request. He would like to rent out the entire top floor of the building, and under no circumstances should anyone, staff included, be allowed to enter. To seal the deal, Light drops a heavy bag of gold coins onto the counter. Colonel is left utterly speechless, unsure how to respond. Light offers to pay even more if needed, but Colonel quickly assures him that this is already 10 times more than necessary. He also says he can't accept such an extravagant sum from the man who saved his life earlier. However, Light remains firm in his decision, and eventually Colonel accepts the generous offer and promises to prepare the rooms immediately. Not long after, Light and the group head upstairs. Once inside, Light takes out several perception-blocking spell cards and activates them throughout the room, ensuring that no one can eavesdrop or spy on them. Finally able to let his guard down, he pulls up a chair and sits, taking a moment to rest. As he settles in, Nemamu speaks up and says that while she understands Light is incredibly strong and has chosen to become an adventurer here to gather intelligence, there's always a risk that he could be injured on the surface. She believes it might be safer for him to return to the dungeon city and let the rest of them handle matters on his behalf. Although Light is generally a calm and considerate person, Nemamu's suggestion hits a nerve. To him, it sounds like she's trying to sideline him from his own mission of revenge, like she thinks he's not capable of carrying it out himself. so that implication infuriates him. Nemomu immediately realizes her mistake and drops to her knees, begging for forgiveness, but the damage has already been done. Light's expression turns deadly, and for a moment, it looks like he might actually harm her. Sensing the rising tension, Gold steps in, laughing lightly to ease the mood. He tells Light that Nemomu simply doesn't grasp the emotional weight behind revenge, and he explains that Light intends to carry out his vengeance with his own hands. No intermediaries, no delegation, and that's something truly noble to stand behind. Hearing Gold's light-hearted jab brings Light back to his senses, and he realizes that he may have let his emotions spiral out of control. He kneels down and apologizes to Nemomu, admitting that he overreacted and understands her words came from genuine concern for his safety. Nemomu, however, insists that she was the one in the wrong for speaking out of turn, so she pleads for the chance to renew her vow of loyalty. Although Light doesn't think such a gesture is necessary, he agrees to honor her request. With care, Nemomu lifts his foot and presses her lips to it. In this world, a kiss to the foot is the ultimate sign of deference and respect toward one's sovereign. Still, Light has never been fond of this custom, especially recalling how awkward it felt when all of his subordinates lined up to perform the ritual when he first summoned them. Even Gold can't help but comment that the whole thing is a bit odd, especially since Nemomu seems to be enjoying it far too much. The following day, Light and the others set out toward the dungeon. As they stroll through the city streets, they quickly draw attention. Gold, clad in radiant armor, sparkles like a walking treasure chest, and Nemomu's striking beauty turns plenty of heads. As for Light, the only remark people seem to have is that he looks strange in his mask. But that only adds to his enigmatic dark persona, so he isn't bothered in the slightest. When they reach the dungeon entrance, they find a long line of people waiting to get in. Gold quickly notices something odd: there aren't any elves present. So Light explains that the elf and dwarf kingdoms are currently locked in a territorial dispute over ownership of this particular dungeon, which has led them to avoid crossing paths. Nemomu compliments Light on always having an answer for everything, which he appreciates, though he raises an eyebrow and asks if she really needs to stand that close, as her melon is pressing hard against the back of his head. She replies with complete seriousness that it's her duty to guard him at all times, and maintaining close proximity is part of that responsibility. Before Light can protest further, he notices a small group of 3 cutting ahead in line. The shortest one is likely a servant, while the second appears to have received moderate combat training. But it's the man in front who truly catches Light's eye. Despite the oversized weapon slung across his back, his movements are sharp, deliberate, and practiced, signs of a seasoned warrior. The surrounding humans hesitate to confront him, likely afraid of provoking a deadly response. But Light has no such fear. Stepping forward, he calls out the elf for his rudeness, stating plainly that cutting in line is unacceptable. The elf immediately bristles with rage when he realizes a human had the audacity to speak to him. He reaches for his sword, clearly ready to escalate the situation, but the elder accompanying him quietly advises that it's not worth causing a scene over something so trivial. After a brief pause, the warrior reluctantly agrees and moves to the back of the line. But as he passes by Light, he leans in and coldly warns him that he'll come to regret showing such disrespect. Once the elf is out of sight, the surrounding humans begin to cheer for Light, applauding him for standing up to the arrogant bully. The kids from earlier even return to personally thank him. Having finally mustered the courage to approach, Light tells them there's no need to thank him because he simply acted out of self-interest. But the children remain sincerely grateful nonetheless. Right then, one of the kids curiously asks Gold if his armor is really made of actual gold, since everyone nearby has been wondering the same thing. Before Gold can respond, Nemomu steps in and explains that his armor isn't made of gold at all, because if it were it'd be far too soft to offer any meaningful protection. The boy starts to ask if Gold just wears it for show, but his friends quickly stop him, realizing that might come off as rude. Still, Gold takes no offense. With a grin, he proudly admits that he absolutely wears it for attention, because no color better reflects the shining example he strives to be as a knight. The conversation shifts as the kids ask if this is Light's group's first time venturing into the dungeon. Light confirms, but also wonders aloud how they guessed. The children explain that this floor is usually reserved for more experienced adventurers due to the high entrance fee, and most who enter come prepared to camp inside. And since Light's team didn't bring any visible gear, it was pretty easy to tell they were new to this specific dungeon. Right then, a guard calls for the next party to proceed. The kids wave goodbye and dash off together into the dungeon. Watching them disappear, Light and the others consider whether they should start carrying fake equipment. Even though all their actual supplies are stored inside an item box, it might be worth the effort just to avoid looking like total newbies. A short while later, it's finally their turn to enter. For Light, this is the first time he's stepped into a dungeon that isn't the Abyss. Dungeons are saturated with mana that grows more potent the deeper one goes, often spawning monsters, traps, and even entire ecosystems. In essence, the inside of a dungeon functions as a world of its own. Once they reach the first floor, Light casts concealment magic over the group, shielding them from detection. And with that, they begin flying together toward the second floor. At the same time, the elf from earlier is furiously venting his frustration on a pack of orcs, unable to accept that a mere human had the gall to speak to him so casually. His name is Kaido, and he loudly declares himself a legendary hero of the Elf Kingdom, boasting that the blood of a maestro flows through his veins, making him deserving of reverence. He mutters bitterly that such humiliation would have never happened if his level weren't currently so low. But Yanok the Elder traveling with him reminds him that a level of 1,500 is already far beyond the standard cap for elves. Still, Kaido scoffs at the idea since it's not enough. He needs the kind of overwhelming power that would allow him to erase every last clown who dared mock or look down on him. Yanok, clearly holding on to some resentment of his own, says he understands the sentiment. After all, he was exiled for research no one respected. So if there's any chance to use that very research to help Kaido grow stronger, he's all in. Back on the other side of the dungeon, Light and his team have already made their way down to the third floor, having just cleared out a massive horde of orcs. Light suggests it's a good time to head back since they've gathered more than enough proof of their strength for the guild. Plus, that last battle left him a mess, and he's eager to clean up. The moment Nemomu hears that, she eagerly volunteers to wash every damn inch of his body once they return, but the fool Light doesn't even respond. As they make their way back up, Light and the group spot the kids from earlier and descend to meet them. But before they can say much, a loud commotion erupts from deep within the forest. In a sudden burst of chaos, dozens of wolves come charging through the trees. The kids quickly panic and tell Light they need to fall back because there's no way they can take on that many enemies. But Light calmly tells them that the wolves aren't the real danger here because something far worse is coming. And a moment later, the ground trembles and a towering quad-scythe mantis bursts into view. The kids freeze in stunned disbelief at the sight before them. The mantis monster species was believed to have been eradicated 10 years ago, and they're clearly in no condition to take one on by themselves. The group's leader quickly tells Mia to use a bit of magic to try and distract the creature, but he already knows that won't be nearly enough. Desperate, he turns to Light and the others, urgently asking for help to throw the beast off long enough for everyone to escape safely. But when Light hears they're planning to retreat, he casually asks if that means they won't mind if he claims the kill himself. The kids look at him like he's insane since a mantis of that size has to be at least level 500. Still, Light calmly assures them there's no reason to panic because he and his companions are more than capable of handling it. Gold then steps forward to land the first strike, but to his surprise, the mantis blocks several of his blows with minimal damage, meaning its claws must be a lot tougher than he expected. Light steps in next and fires a blazing arrow directly at the mantis, but just before it hits, the mantis redirects it and sends it flying back toward him. Watching this unfold, the kids begin to worry that Light and the others might be in serious danger, so they urge Mia to hurry up and cast her spell. But she's too stunned to concentrate because she just witnessed Light unleash a high-grade combat spell without even chanting, and she had no idea that was even possible. Since the rest of the kids aren't familiar with magic, they can't really tell what counts as impressive, so they don't know whether to intervene or stay back. But Gold tells them it's better if they sit this one out, and to top it off, he offers them a brief lesson in what it means to be a true knight. For starters, he explains that a shield isn't just for blocking, and as the mantis lunges at him, he pivots and flawlessly counters the attack, completely destroying one of its claws. He then adds that a knight must never miss an opening, and with the mantis still reeling from the blow, Gold moves behind it and slices off one of its legs. Light follows up with another wave of fire arrows, but this time, when the mantis deflects them, the arrows curve mid-air and strike its back. Light has taken full control of their trajectory, so no matter what the mantis tries, the arrows will find their target every single time. Eventually, the mantis has all of its limbs blown clean off, and realizing it doesn't stand a chance against Light, it turns and makes a desperate dash toward the forest. Light is caught off guard, surprised that the creature is intelligent enough to recognize when it's completely outmatched and attempt a retreat. But he has no intention of letting it escape after everything that just happened. So he quickly casts a massive firewall in its path to block access to the trees, and Mia absolutely loses it. She's never witnessed someone deploy such wide area tactical magic so instantly in her entire life. And with the path forward sealed, the mantis has nowhere left to run. But it still has its wings, so in a last-ditch effort to survive, it launches itself into the air. But before it can flee, Nemomu leaps skyward after it and effortlessly shreds it to bits mid-flight. After she lands, Gold tells her she messed up, which really irritates her since she thought she was doing exactly what Light wanted, destroying the monster. But Gold explains that she also obliterated all the valuable parts, which means there's nothing left to sell once they return to town. Realizing her mistake, Nimemu immediately starts begging Light for forgiveness, but he assures her it's not a big deal. Off to the side, the kids are still frozen in place, unsure if they really just witnessed a human take down a quadscythe mantis, or if they collectively hallucinated the whole thing. And after a few minutes, as they dig through the remains, they stumble upon the mantis's magic gem. Miraculously, it's still intact, meaning Light can use it as proof of his achievement. But just before he departs, one of the kids approaches him and asks if he's part of a famous adventure party or something, because there's no way someone that powerful is just a rookie. But Light calmly replies that he and his friends are indeed ranked F, leaving the kids even more confused than before. With the battle now over, Mia conjures a ball of water using her magic and offers it to Light so he can rinse off all the mantis goo. He's genuinely touched that she would use her precious mana for his sake, but she insists it's the least she can do. Since the sun is starting to set, the leader invites Light and the others to camp with them for the night. Not just because it's dangerous to travel in the dark, but also because Mia is dying to chat about magic with Light. And since there's no real downside to staying, Light agrees. Then, while the group is gathered around sharing a meal, Mia starts bombarding Light with all kinds of questions about his past. But since he obviously can't reveal his real background or future goals, he improvises a story and claims that both of his parents were exceptional mages, which explains why he's able to cast spells without needing incantations. That explanation seems to satisfy Mia, but her brother still doesn't get what's so impressive about it. Hearing him say that, Mia launches into a passionate rant about how insane Light's magic really was. She explains that there are 3 primary classifications of magic. First, there's combat class magic, typically used against individual enemies. Then there's tactical class magic, which can affect a broad area, like the firewall Light cast earlier. And finally, there's strategic class magic, capable of impacting the world on a much larger, even global scale. That includes cataclysmic spells like triggering earthquakes or calling down meteor strikes, which usually require a team of elite mages to pool their mana and recite lengthy incantations in unison to even attempt. While other races can cast powerful magic with relative ease, it's extremely rare for humans to reach that level. That's why Mia was so stunned to see someone like Light pull off a spell of that caliber so effortlessly. Her brother might not understand the mechanics of magic all that well, but from how Mia explained it, he can tell Light is on a completely different level. Still, he tells Mia she deserves credit too, since her abilities were strong enough to earn her a formal recommendation to the Duchy's Magic Academy. That piques Light's interest, so he asks if they mean the academy overseen by the Principality of Nine, the governing body formed by all 9 major races. Mia confirms that's the one, and Gold adds that being recognized by the Principality is no small feat, which makes it clear she's a highly capable mage. Her brother agrees, but says their circumstances made things difficult. Both of their parents passed away during a plague, and without the money to afford academy tuition, they had to form an adventuring party with their childhood friends, Gimra and Wordy, just to survive. Currently, their main objective is to earn enough through dungeon runs to eventually send Mia to that academy. But Mia says she's already happy just being able to travel with the people she cares about, so they don't need to go to extreme lengths for her. Her brother promises not to do anything reckless, and watching the two of them talk like that brings back memories for Light, specifically of the moments he used to share with his own younger sister. Right then, Mia and her brother ask Light what inspired him to become an adventurer. So sticking to his cover story, he tells them his parents died in a fire, and he was left with severe burns, prompting him to search for a rare magic potion that could heal his injuries. The story sounds so tragic that everyone falls silent, unsure of how to respond. Sensing the awkward tension, Gimra decides to break it by abruptly asking if Gold and Nimemu are a couple. Nimemu immediately bristles and snaps that she would never, under any circumstances, date someone like Gold. Gold, on the other hand, remains composed and casually replies that he has no interest in dating a woman as immature as Nimemu. While those two go back and forth in their usual bickering, somewhere deeper in the dungeon, Kaito is busy slaying orcs to collect the necessary biological samples Yanok needs for his next experiment, an attempt to bypass the level caps placed on every race. Now that they've gathered enough magical material, Yanok says the only thing left is a human test subject, and Kaito already knows exactly who he wants for that role. Time passes, and Light stops by the guild to exchange his most recent batch of magic stones. A crowd quickly gathers around him, amazed by the sheer volume of gems he managed to bring back. Ever since Light and his team took down the quadscythe mantis, their reputation in the city has skyrocketed, and people have started referring to their group as Black Motley. Even the receptionists, who used to ignore them, have begun treating them with far more respect. and Light is genuinely pleased by all the attention, since that kind of recognition was part of his goal from the beginning. As he and the team are walking toward the dungeon, a man suddenly calls out to him from the road. Nemamu instantly goes on guard, but the man quickly assures them he means no harm. He introduces himself as Suvalin, and the guy next to him is Gilbert. They explain that they heard Light's party not only defeated a Quadscythe Mantis, but also made it to the 5th floor of the dungeon. And when they spotted him passing by, they just had to say something. At that moment, the rest of Suvalin and Gilbert's party shows up, reminding them it's time to enter the dungeon. So they say goodbye to Light and head inside. Watching them go, Light finds it nice to see he's inspiring hope among the other humans in town. However, not everyone is thrilled, since many from other races are openly envious of Light's growing strength and are convinced he's a fraud. Light expected as much though, but if they're not going to accept his achievements willingly, then he'll just have to make them recognize the truth by delivering results they can't ignore. And once he steps into the dungeon, Light informs Gold and Nemamu that he plans to return to the 5th floor today. But before heading down, he notices the same group of kids from before and decides to drop by and greet them. Mia and the others are surprised to see him again. It's been a while since they last crossed paths. But Mia's brother says it's actually great timing because Mia had been wanting to give something to Light. Mia seems a little shy at first, but she eventually hands Light a small clamshell container filled with ointment she made herself. She recalls him saying that he suffered severe burns across his body, so she created it to help ease some of the pain. Light is genuinely touched by the kind gesture, though it does make him feel a bit guilty for lying to her about the burns. Wanting to return the kindness, he pulls out one of his own items to give to Mia as a gift. It's a bracelet, and a beautiful one at that. So Mia hesitates, unsure if she should accept something that looks so valuable. But Light assures her that her gift truly meant a lot to him, and he wants her to have the bracelet as a token of appreciation. Mia lights up and promises to treasure it forever. However, after Light and his group head off, Amamu asks if he's really okay with giving away an SS-class item so casually. That bracelet was a wishing bracelet, capable of creating a small miracle depending on the wearer's intent, so Light thought it would be the perfect gift for someone like Mia. A short while later, they arrive on the 5th floor, which is completely blanketed in snow. This actually works to their advantage, as the snow provides excellent cover. Light assigns Gold and Nemamu the task of hunting Yetis while he's away, then activates a teleportation item that whisks him back to his throne room within the dungeon city. Once there, he sits down with a warm cup of tea and checks in with his team on the progress of their revenge operations. Ellie reports that preparations are almost complete, and they'll be ready to move to the next stage very soon. Light is pleased with the update and tells Ellie she's free to use whatever resources she needs to keep things running smoothly. In the meantime, he asks Mei to continue overseeing matters in the Abyss and instructs Aoyuki to remain focused on scouting through the ancient forest. Right then, Mizuna asks if there's anything he'd like her to handle in the meantime. Light isn't quite sure how to respond, since Mizuna's only real strength lies in monster combat, so she's not exactly useful outside of that. Still, not wanting her to feel left out, he tells her to remain on standby and protect the city in case a dangerous enemy shows up. That's more than enough for her, so she proudly declares that no one will get past her while she's on watch. Light smiles to himself, looking forward to the day his plan finally unfolds, and he wants to relish every second of the look of pure misery on Sasha's face when he stands in front of her. Elsewhere in the dungeon, Gilbert and Suvalin had made camp and were standing watch while their party members rested. At one point, Suvalin needed to relieve himself, so he stepped briefly into the woods. But when he returned, what he saw was horrifying. Gilbert's severed head lay on the ground, with Kaido standing calmly over the corpse. Their two sleeping companions had already been silently executed, and Kaido makes it clear this massacre isn't personal. It's fueled entirely by his deep-rooted hatred for the human race. Blinded by rage, Suvalin wants to strike back, but he knows full well he's outmatched. So thinking quickly, he throws down a smoke bomb and bolts, determined to escape and alert the guild about what happened. He feels confident about his chances. After all, most magic is useless unless the caster can see their target. But just when he thinks he's gotten away, something strikes him hard in the back. Looking up through the haze, he sees Kaido effortlessly flying toward him on a magical hoverboard. Moments later, Suvalin is knocked unconscious by Yanok, who berates Kaido for killing all the humans despite being crystal clear about needing them alive. But Kaido doesn't see what the big deal is because in his eyes, killing a few worthless humans shouldn't matter, especially since Yanok never cared about them in the first place. But Yanok is running out of time and viable test subjects, and his research is still unstable, so he points out that Suvalin will likely die from side effects long before the formula is perfected, so they'll need to hunt down more human lab rats and fast. That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next part, Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification